when they stepped outside, what'd they do? Light up a spliff,
Yeah.
you know?
So they were good and high.
Yeah. I don't know how high they were. Maybe it wasn't good.
But they're high. They're high.
It didn't specify, you know.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the 420 episode of Ectoplasm and Evil.
Ectoplasm and Evil, let's go.
I'm really excited about today's episode.
Today is hashtag haunted while high.
Yes. And
It's 420.
Yeah, it's 420.
Mana ganja breed. I get hype on me chronic till me item I bleed. Even though neither of us smoke.
No, neither of us smoke.
I don't know why we're so excited about 420. There's no reason for us to be excited.
There's literally no reason for us to be excited, but I feel like it's the joy of being able to spread potential haunted tales while people were high to other people who get high.
That's true, yeah. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, we love holidays, and I feel like this is no exception to that rule. You know what I mean? You don't have to smoke to enjoy 420.
You don't. I mean, I enjoyed a few years ago, I did lip art where I literally painted a pot leaf on my lip, and it was like pretty fucking cool.
It was pretty dope, yeah. Did you say a pot leaf?
Yeah, do you remember that?
No, just the fact that you said a pot leaf.
What would you call it? A marijuana leaf?
Probably a marijuana leaf, yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean.
As you can tell, we don't smoke. All right, I guess that's accurate. I don't know.
Someone can correct us if I'm wrong. It's fine.
Someone can correct you if you're wrong, yeah.
I got the spirit. I mean, I think it's okay.
Yeah. Well, we're pretty excited because we have two stories today.
We do have two stories.
Both from listeners. One is from one of our followers who has told us a story before.
Yes.
If you listen to the Jumbi and Ting episode.
Yes, the inaugural episode.
Yeah, she had an old hike story for us.
Yeah.
And she's got an amazing haunted while high story for us. She's choosing to remain anonymous, so we'll just know her as Elizabeth. And we're going to tell her story for her because she doesn't want to tell it herself.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's valid.
It's totally fine. Yeah. I guess we should just start there. Should we just tell her story? And then?
Yeah, let's tell her story.
All right. So without further ado, light up your spliffs if you got them.
Yes.
Take a hit of that pen.
And get haunted while high.
You know what I mean? Pop that edible. You know what I mean?
Maybe you got a cookie. Maybe you got a brownie to celebrate today.
That's right. Whatever you got, you know, light up the chronic.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the tale of Jalco.
Jalco.
Yes, Jalco.
Now, is Jalco a person or a type of creature or?
Jalco was a person
Okay.
who became a spirit.
Okay.
We're getting there. This takes place in Trinidad.
Gotcha.
Elizabeth is Trinidadian, but she's from Queens, New York, which is my hometown as well. Elizabeth said that when she was growing up, she used to spend a lot of her summers in Trinidad.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, her nanny lived there. For those who are not familiar, your nanny is a term for your maternal grandmother. A lot of her family in Trinidad lived in Port of Spain, which, as I understand it, is a more urban area.
Okay.
And her nanny lived in a very rural part of Trinidad.
Gotcha.
She was visiting Trinidad one summer, and she was a teenager.
Yeah.
And so she was chilling with one of her cousins who she was very close to. He was about maybe a year older than her.
Okay.
So normal teenagers like to get into stupid teenage shit. So they were at that age where they want to start experimenting with ganja. It's the summertime. They're kicking it. And all they have on their mind is probably drinking and smoking ganja.
Yeah, that's fair.
But of course, they love their nanny and they want to go spend some time with her. Mm-hmm. So they decide that they're going to take the bus and go and stay with their nanny for about 10 days and just, do some activities with her, go to the market with her, just do stuff that makes her happy. And, at the same time, when nanny goes to bed, they'll get into mischief.
Okay, so they're not getting high with Nani.
They're not getting high with nanny, no. Nanny would not approve.
All right, Nani's missing out, it seems.
says people who don't smoke.
I know. The irony.
Nani, you over here, Nani is missing out, and I guess so am I since I don't smoke.
I said something like that when we were watching Ted Lasso the other day, and
this is not a spoiler. Yeah, Ted was avoiding drinking the shroom tea that Coach Beard made for him, and then you were like, "We should have just fucking drank it."
Just drink it. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, stop being a bitch.
As if I would drink it.
Yeah, so Elizabeth and her cousin, they go to Nani's area, so it's quite a bit away from Port of Spain.
Okay.
Right? Like I said, it's a more rural area.
Yeah.
And so Nani lives in this house at the top of a hill, and she's been there by herself for a number of years.
All right, let me just pause for a second and say a house on top of a hill already sounds fucking creepy to me.
No, it's definitely a creepy setting. House on top of a hill is House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah, House on Haunted Hill. Every single fucking cartoon ever.
The haunted house is pretty much on top of a hill, right?
It's the lone house at the very top of the hill. There's like thunder and lightning around just that house.
Yeah.
Every tree is dead. So that's what I'm picturing.
It has all the makings of a ghost story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nani lives on this house on top of the hill, and they're spending their time with Nani. They're having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
They're doing chores with her. They're going to the market with her, whatever. And then whenever Nani is going to bed, or perhaps when she takes a midday nap, something like that, they're getting into a little trouble.
Nice.
You know, and by trouble, I mean they're smoking some cigarettes, they're smoking some ganja, they're doing a little drinking.
Yeah.
They're being normal teenagers.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there was a guy that lived in the neighborhood, and his name was Jalko.
Okay.
And I believe Jalko was the next door neighbor.
All right,
I believe that Nani's land was adjacent to Jalko's land.
Gotcha.
And, you know, so he was just a guy in the neighborhood. I don't know if they knew him that well, and I don't think we have much information about what type of a person he was in life.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's necessarily relevant to what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
So Jalko was met with some very unfortunate circumstances. His wife passed away, I think, while they were there. He was, you know, pretty sad because after that happened, he was lonely. His kids did not live close by. I think maybe they lived in a different country, perhaps America.
Okay.
But either way, he wasn't seeing his kids very often.
Right.
So the guy just felt very lonely. So suffice it to say, Jalko was a very sad individual.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Jalko made the decision to commit suicide.
Oh, that's so sad.
So he hanged himself.
Oh my gosh, that's so upsetting.
And so I believe that happened while Elizabeth and her cousin were visiting.
Okay.
And they were unaware when it first happened.
Right.
Now, remember I told you that Jalko's land was adjacent to Nani's land?
Yes.
So there were a few big old trees that I think were kind of between the lands.
Always some big old trees.
One of them was a mango tree.
Okay.
And Elizabeth said this tree had the best mangoes that she ever had.
I bet.
You know, so they used to love when this tree was bearing fruit. Her and her cousin would, you know, pick mangoes off of this tree and go to town.
Yeah.
So she said that one day her and her cousin climbed up into this mango tree to pick some mangoes. They went up there with salt or whatever.
Okay.
You know, and they were lashing some mangoes.
Yeah.
Had a good time.
That sounds amazing.
That's sweet mango. The next day is when they found out that the same day they were in that mango tree was the same day that Jalko hanged himself there.
Okay.
I would imagine it probably happened after they were there because they would have noticed.
Yeah.
I would think.
Right.
So they never actually saw the body hanging there, but they did actually see after they had cut him down, the noose was still there.
Oh my gosh.
Like, or a piece of the noose or whatever.
Oh.
So yeah, it was probably a pretty jarring image.
Yeah.
So they're probably pretty creeped out, you know,
Yeah.
sad. It's a sad situation.
Of course.
But they're continuing on with their life.
Right.
You know, they're chilling with Nani.
Yeah.
And they're doing their general routine.
Right.
And they're getting into mischief. So much so that one day they took the car out to go smoke some ganja to the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
And they actually got stuck in a ditch.
Oh, shit.
And they had to call another relative to come and bail them out of this ditch.
Yeah.
So they're getting on bad. One would certainly say that they're getting on bad.
Definitely.
Right. So there was one day when Nani was expecting a very important letter to be delivered.
Okay.
And the mailbox was at the bottom of the hill.
Okay.
You know, so she told the kids to be on alert, you know, that this letter is going to be delivered sometime today. I need you guys to make sure you grab it for me.
Right.
But they're kind of fucking about all day. And they were doing something that was pretty fucked up. They were throwing salt on frogs. Let me just clarify here that Elizabeth does say that she highly regrets those actions.
Yes.
You know, she was just being a silly kid.
Yeah, yeah. Kids do weird things. I mean.
Yeah, kids do dumb shit. So Nani catches them throwing salt on the frogs.
Yeah.
Nani's a good person, so she's not too happy about that.
Yeah, yeah.
So she admonishes them.
Right.
And she tells them if they keep getting into mischief, Jalko is going to come for them.
Oh, shit. So she's using Jalko.
She's using Jalko as a threat.
Okay.
You know, as a warning.
Right.
So that's what Nani said. And of course, they didn't pay any heed to it.
Yeah.
It just sounded like something that a Nani would say.
Right.
Right. And of course, so they were saying like, you know, maybe Nani had an inkling of the other mischief they were getting into.
Right.
She would smell the weed and then they would play it off and say that it was coming from the mosquito coils.
She definitely knew it wasn't the mosquito coils.
I'm sure she knew, yeah. And then she would say, you know, why do you guys have matches? And they'd say, well, we got to light the mosquito coils or whatever. If listeners are not familiar, in places with a lot of mosquitoes, they have these things. I mean, you probably know, right?
Yeah, I know what they are. It's like they're made out of, I don't even know what chemicals are in them, but you basically light the end of the coil and it slow releases whatever noxious substance is in the air.
Right. So something like that.
Yeah.
But it's a thing to get rid of mosquitoes.
Yeah, it smokes them out of there, basically.
Yeah, so I guess it comes with a scent.
Yes.
But it's probably not similar to the scent of weed.
It's not.
But Elizabeth and her cousin, they were playing it off like that.
I mean, A for effort, but she definitely knew.
Which is why she put in that warning.
Yeah, yeah.
So they had this warning, but again, they didn't pay any heed to it.
Right.
So the day comes and they realize that all day they have not gone down to get this letter.
Right.
You know, they've been doing everything but getting that letter all day long. Just mischief.
Yeah.
And so they realize, damn, if we don't get this letter before Nani wakes up tomorrow, we're going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
You know, licks. And so it's dark now. Mm-hmm. They're going to the bottom of the hill. Mm-hmm. And her cousin is the one that's actually pulling the letter out of the mailbox.
Right.
And then he gets slapped on his back.
What?
Mad hard. Elizabeth didn't see anything happening, but this dude reacted to getting slapped on the back.
Yeah, naturally.
And he looked at Elizabeth and he was like, why did you slap me so hard?
Uh-huh.
Now, again, he said it with a Trinidadian accent.
Right.
And Elizabeth responded like, dude, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
She vividly remembers it because she said he started making fun of her American accent. Because she's American, right? She's from Queens.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, they weren't that creeped out, right? Because I guess he thought that she was playing games.
Yeah.
She denied it, but I guess he didn't fully believe her probably.
Right.
At that time.
Yeah.
And then she probably thought that he was playing games.
Yeah. So they were just like,
Yeah, exactly. So they didn't think anything of it. So they continue up the hill. Then they clean up their mischief, evidence of their mischief. So they were like moving bottles, probably ashes or whatever else. And then they were like, all right, time to get to bed. So her cousin is going to brush his teeth.
Right.
When going in to brush his teeth, he feels that his back is burning.
Oh, no.
So he checks and there is a gigantic handprint
Fuck off.
on his back.
No.
It's a human-esque handprint, but it's much larger than your average human handprint.
That's horrifying.
It's red, and the area is burning him.
Oh my gosh.
And so now they freak out.
Yeah, of course.
They go and they call Nani,
Yeah.
and they're like, look what happened. And she was basically like, I told you so. I told you that if you were getting into mischief, Jalko was going to come for you.
And as evidenced, he did.
As indeed he did. I would definitely be curious to know if Jalko in life was like the archetype of like an angry old man.
I was going to say.
That kind of like, you know, didn't like kids getting into mischief and would, you know, scold people and
Maybe
stuff like that.
Maybe didn't like kids, period.
Maybe didn't like kids, period. Maybe he was like, these damn kids and their damn weed. You know what I mean?
These rotten kids.
Yeah.
I picture Eustace from Courage the Cowardly Dog.
No, that's kind of what I was thinking too. I wonder if he was like Trinidadian Eustace.
Yeah, which like, you know, that's a vibe.
Yeah, that's a vibe. And so, yeah, it's important to note, of course, that they were haunted while high because while they were walking down to get this letter, when they stepped outside, what'd they do? Light up a spliff.
Yeah.
You know?
So they were good and high.
Yeah. I don't know how high they were. Maybe it wasn't good.
They're high.
They didn't specify, you know. But this hand slapping and this mark was not a hallucination.
Yeah, no.
You know
everyone
what I mean?
saw it.
People saw it. There was burning.
Yeah.
It was visible.
Yeah.
And it scared the shit out of them.
Yeah.
It scared the shit out of them so much so that they wanted to vacate immediately.
I would want the exact same thing.
Right. So there's a bus that goes from where Nani lived back to Port of Spain.
Yeah.
Was not running at the time.
Right.
Obviously. Mm-hmm. And the next time it was running was longer than they cared to wait.
Yeah.
And so I believe that she called her dad in a panic, who was in Port of Spain or somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or it was either her dad or her uncle, like her cousin's parents.
Right.
Either way, though, they came to pick them up.
Okay.
They were not down to stay there with Jalko's spirit on the loose.
I wouldn't want to stay
Jalko's
either.
angry spirit on the loose, right?
He's mad about it.
I mean, he started with the slap. There's no telling what's next.
And the slap burns. So this wasn't even just like a quick like slap and you never feel it again.
Right, yeah.
It lingered. It was a lingering slap.
Now, the interesting thing about it, which is kind of something that's happened in like shows or movies that we've watched, I feel like this is maybe an Are You Afraid of the Dark kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Is that they asked Nani afterward, were you actually aware of something? Like how did you think to warn us about Jalko so quickly after he passed away?
Right.
And then this thing happened.
Yeah.
And she said she didn't seriously think that anything would happen. She thought that she really was just teasing them.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So she was not aware of anything that would really go down. She really just thought like, oh, this is a fun way to scare the kids.
Yeah. Like a harmless goof.
Correct.
So here's a question. Do we think it was Jalco, or do we think, because you said it was human-esque, right?
Right.
Do we think it was something else that was like, oh, I'm going to take advantage of this situation?
I'd like to think that it was Jalco because like earlier they had no encounters.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, they didn't do anything else, and it came directly after like Nani made this warning.
Yeah.
And obviously the time coincided with Jalco's passing.
Yeah.
So I think it was because there's certainly, like I said, like shows like Are You Afraid of the Dark or cartoons that we've watched,
right,
where there's a character that's telling a legend, who thinks that they're making up a legend, but then it turns out to be true.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
That's definitely happened in Hey Arnold.
Yeah,
it's definitely happened in Doug, probably.
Yeah.
It's happened in, like I said, multiple episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark. But it's a thing, right? Where there's a character that's just trying to scare people,
and then it turns out that the scare is in fact.
Turns out it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is what happened here.
It sounds like it for sure.
You know, Elizabeth said that they were so scared that they didn't go back to Nani's house until Jalco's 1-year puja had been completed.
Yes.
So for those of you who are listening that are not familiar with what that is, a lot of Hindu people, that's a custom.
Yes.
Right? It's when someone passes away 1 year after the passing, they do a puja.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to aid in the soul moving on,
yeah,
right?
transitioning on from the plane that they're kind of in for about a year. It takes them a year to like fully transition to being gone from here.
So there you go, yeah. They probably felt that until that was done, Jalco may still be lingering around.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that they had any experiences with Jalco after that.
Wow.
But it is something that they very vividly remember.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I certainly would not forget being slapped on the back by a ghost right after he died.
No, definitely not. That shit is crazy. I don't know if I would go back to Nani's house ever.
I wouldn't.
You know what I mean?
I'm be real. No.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Because that's some scary shit.
It is some scary shit.
You know, props to them for going back.
Yeah, it's one thing if it's like a benign, like you knock something off the shelf and like, whoo, spooky. But like once you start physically interacting with me.
Correct. That's physical harm. Like Jalco straight up abused them. Yeah, so that is the hashtag haunted while high tale of Jalco.
That was a good ass tale.
Yeah, I thought it was a good tale. So our next story comes from a friend of mine, one of my boys, whose name is T.
Yes, T.
And T's story comes from the first time he ever smoked weed.
Which is like, that's an inaugural haunted while high.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And it's interesting, because he was high, his boys who were around him at the time did not believe him.
Right.
Right? So as you'll hear when you listen to his story right now, he had to do some investigating of his own.
And he did.
Just like Elizabeth, his story was true.
Yeah.
He saw what he saw, and he verified it.
And he was haunted for sure.
While high.
While high.
Which is the theme of the episode.
The theme of the episode.
So I guess let's get into it.
Where do I start? So this was my first time ever smoking THC. I've never really been one to smoke growing up.
Okay.
So my boys were over, and we figured that if there was I figured if there was ever a time, now is the time, right? I got laid off. I was working for a company. I just had recently gotten laid off, and all my boys were over. It was one of my boys' birthday party, and so he bought some weed over, and we smoked. And I got baked, man.
Right, and that was your first ever experience.
That was my first ever experience, and I guess I didn't know any better, and so I was kind of like taking those pulls of like it was just hookah and just like bomb, and those one pull ended up becoming two became three, and dude, without even realizing it, I kind of got more high than I was supposed to. We're all sitting down in the living room area, and I don't know if it was hallucinations or what it was, and my boy confirmed it. So I know it wasn't just like, me being super high and paranoia.
Yeah.
Because we were having a really good time. Like the first part of it is always, you have the time of your life because you get the energy going, you get that sativa in you, and you're like through the roof, right? I'm already like a Jim Carrey off the walls without it.
Right.
So with that THC, just kind of like, it was like tea on steroids. I looked through so what we have is our living room set up just to kind of like walk you guys through it. Like I know you guys have been here, but for the viewers who haven't, right?
For sure, yeah.
Our living room area is kind of like an open area, and you have like the back sliding door, but the sliding door allows you to see directly outside the backyard. So you can see everything. That night the lights weren't on, but the moonlight was like bright white. You ever have those nights where like the moon's so bright you step out and you're like, are the lights on?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Rarely, yeah.
So you see, I saw a little shadowy figure. So I'm very like overprotective anyway, just naturally on guard.
Right.
So I got up, I kind of slid the door open just to make sure nobody was in the backyard. I looked around and no one. I come back in and I see like this shadowy figure was weird. Like it was like a grown figure. It was like a manly figure.
Right.
Kind of like peeping in through the window and through the door. Sorry. So we're all having a good time. We kind of like get on with our business. We're all like downstairs now in the man cave. We're like playing like sequence. Matt was over and whatnot. So I go upstairs now to the backyard just to kind of get the fireplace set up so I can like have the wood and all that stuff. This happens. And I look to my left and it literally like there's a shadowy figure standing like right behind there's this umbrella with chairs and whatnot. There was a shadowy figure standing right there.
Holy
At
shit.
this point, it was no longer like, okay, I'm hallucinating or man, this might have just been a reflection off the light. Like now I'm standing outside.
Right.
I see that, and I'm a Muslim, so we're told like naturally when you see things like paranoia or like, you know, things that are like supernatural, like prayers and stuff like that you recite, right? Just to keep you protected, make sure it isn't like out for me. And like, cause I had no idea what this was. My first time experiencing something like this.
Yeah.
What made matters worse was the fact that I was high. I'm like up there pleading to God. I'm like, wait, help me see through like a clear lens. If like for me, I get it. Make this thing go away. I'm like freaking out, right?
Yeah.
I look at it. I'm like completely. I'm frozen in the exact spot. I'm like I have two pieces of logs in my hand, and I'm like frozen like an idiot, right? And I'm like praying. I'm like, God, please, you know. This shadowy figure doesn't move. Like it's standing still. Like it's not one of those things where it was there for like 2 seconds and then it just vanishes. That's the scary part about this entire experience. I watch so many movies and TV shows, right?
Yeah.
See a thing, you see like a figure, like the person looks away, you look back and it's gone.
Yeah.
Right? That's the most like scariest part about it. Like I'm looking at this figure and I'm like, yo, dude, there's no umbrella. There's no like, there's no closet door. There's nothing that I can tell myself that maybe this is just a shadow reflecting off it.
Yeah.
So I run down, like I drop the logs and I run downstairs, right? And I'm like, yo, guys, it's like, you can't make this shit up. I'm like, before I even like told them, I'm like over here swearing up and down because I know how bizarre this sounds, you know?
Yep. Right. Yeah.
I swear this has got nothing to do with THC. I just saw a ghost. I just saw like a black figure out there. I know for a fact it's a spirit. And everyone started laughing.
Oh man. Everyone else was high too, I imagine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Besides like this one dude.
Yeah, so they're high and they just think that you're high. How many people were there?
It was like 5 of us, and all 4 of them are like amongst themselves. They're like, "Yo, it's his first time." Like,
he's just seeing things.
This was natural, bro. Relax. Tea. Everyone's like, tea. Drink some water. Drink some water. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
Nothing irritates you more than like telling people, pleading your case, and they're just looking at you like this is a joke.
Right.
So it was something out of one of those dreams where like you almost feel helpless, like you're trying to move, you're trying to make shit happen, but like it's beyond your control.
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm freaked out now. I go back out. It's not there, right? Like when I go back downstairs and I come back out, it's not there.
Did you go back by yourself or anybody came with you?
I went out with my boy. I wasn't going out by myself. So
okay, so you're like, come with me.
Smoking. Yo, I'm looking at you in your eyes. Do I sound high? Do I sound like I'm slurring words? I'm telling you, I'm shit fucking scared right now. I need your help, right?
Yeah.
He comes out where we step out, and I look to the right, and of course, clear, right? And he looks at me, and he's like, he sent like a prayer my way. He's like, bro, it's okay. Drink some water. I genuinely think you're hallucinating. That was the scariest moment in my life because I have seen that figure again since with like completely sober.
Yeah.
No way.
And yeah, so it was weird. This happened like about a couple of months ago. So where our backyard is, our neighbor's fence is like right on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I was curious because this shadowy figure was lurking like under the neighbor's street. Like when we moved into this house, we had like 3 huge trees in our backyard. Mm-hmm. Our landlord like cut those trees off. Now we have like this big open space, as you guys saw.
Yeah.
Our neighbor's house, on the other hand, has this huge, like humongous tree. Like if it goes through a bad hurricane, their house is gone. It's like that.
Gotcha.
Overlapping their house. And in our saying spiritual context, they say that like it's not safe or good to be around trees dark late at night. It could be mythology to me. Like I've never looked into it too much because we live in America and we don't really deal with shit like that.
Well, we've heard that from a few different cultures too. Yeah.
So they say that in our culture that you're not supposed to like roam around trees, especially like large trees that have like trunks kind of like overlapping down. Like those are heavy areas, predominantly like where spirits thrive.
Yeah,
that's kind of like what we were told growing up. That's where I've seen it actually, and so. The very next day, curiosity got the best of me. I wasn't working at the time. I was always home, working from home. So I knocked on their door, and it was Korean neighbors. And I'm like, hey, listen, I'm just curious to know, do you guys sense to have like, and again, I'm not trying to sound crazy. I've just, I've seen things, and I just wanted to kind of get some answers, and maybe you can shed some light onto it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe or yourself, have you guys experienced any sort of paranormal activity? And they said, our grandfather passed away, and the way that they did was in a very tragic accident, and not too far off, just about like 2 exits off of Northern State Parkway. And I said, how long ago was that? And they said about 2 years ago. And we had bought this house just a month before that happened. And that's something that, we're still living by. It was the guy's father. And so we've sometimes feel the presence. The kids sometimes feel like there's that humming every time, like the grandfather would try to put the kids to sleep. There's a humming like sort of sound that he would make to kind of put the kids to sleep, and the kids still hear it till this day. So they hear that from time to time. And when I heard that coming from my neighbor, like I had like chills run down my spine, right? Prior to that, it's like you hear spirits and you're like, all right, cool, great, paranormal activity. Let's watch this movie. It's all horror movies. And when shit really hits the fan and happens to you, that's when it's like you kind of get that reality check that no, spirits roam around us and this is true. And like the backstory to that was bone chilling. I mean, it was crazy. Wow. He's like, yeah, the way he experienced it or the way he explained it, and I quote his words, we still feel his presence, linger in the house, but it's not a harmful presence. Just like that, it's not a harmful presence. And I'm like, well, thank you, I appreciate that. And like I didn't go too into that depth with that. I didn't know how to continue this conversation. I was and like I was trying to collect myself. I'm like, did I just hear, and did I happen to like land at a house right next door? Like this is crazy. I kept it to myself, by the way. Nobody in my family knows about the story, and I'll tell you why. I'm married to a woman who's like super duper paranoid. Super paranoid. I tell her this, I need to now come up with a $25,000 moving budget.
Wait, what if she sees the podcast?
She won't see the podcast.
Okay.
I'll make sure I'll do whatever it takes in my power to I guess my future relies on this podcast now. I really oh, darn it.
Put that money aside.
Yeah. I gotta start catching that little budget on the side.
For real? This wasn't that long ago, correct?
Yeah.
No, this was about a year and a half ago, give or take.
Wow.
Okay, and that's the first time in your life you said you ever smoked?
Yeah.
It's definitely telling, of course, the fact that you felt so unnerved that you took it upon yourself to ask the neighbors, because a lot of people would think like, these people are probably going to just think I'm fucking crazy. Like, I shouldn't say anything. But obviously it was enough that you were like, let me just ask. And
I was right next door. That's why I had to.
Yeah. The times that you saw the spirit, at the time, obviously you were scared because you were seeing a spirit, but did you feel any negative energy? Did you feel any like sort of, malevolent intent, anything like that?
No, not at all. I think it was more so the fact that I was seeing something that I was not supposed to see, which is not normal, which kind of got the best of me. Yeah. But I feel like this was out to haunt me, or this was out to get me, or there was no scary movements. I know that they have the potential to do a lot. Yeah. When it comes to just magnetic force and lights and all this other stuff, but nothing like that was experienced. So I mean there's nothing that happened which would trigger me to immediately like just move ship, because if something like that happens, I'll be honest with you, whether it's 15,000 or 20,000 or whatever the case may be, whatever that is, dude, like this thing like even like shoved me. I swear to you, I'm not making this shit up. even if I got shoved,
yeah,
there was no second chance at that house.
Yeah.
Facts.
I'm not even like, okay, let's call it a night. Let's crash for the night. We'll figure it out. No. Holiday Inn, reservations.
We out. Yeah.
We figure
That's
it out when
right.
the sun rises, you know?
Yeah. That means then it probably is accurate that it is the grandfather's spirit if there was no malintent. I was wondering, like, have you seen the second Conjuring?
I have. I have.
So you remember how it was like there was a ghost of an old man in there, and the old man's ghost was like a completely benevolent or like a benign ghost, but it was being controlled by an evil demon?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just now, I was like, I wonder if that's going on, but thank God it's not.
No, thank God it's not. I mean, we didn't really get to that point. I haven't seen it since. It was in the very beginning phases a year and a half ago, and like since then, like I'm working a lot. I'm hardly ever home now.
Yeah.
So that's probably a reason, but I haven't seen it or heard of it. And even I see my neighbors here and there, and we'll just wave at each other. They haven't brought it up either.
Right.
But I'm grateful that this was a good ghost.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Best case scenario. After you got confirmation from your neighbors that it was indeed a spirit going on, did you hit up all your boys that were there that night and be like, listen, motherfuckers, I was not high. I just got confirmation.
I called them up and I did say that. And, literally all of them having sobered up now, having this conversation. They're like, nah, bro. It's funny because like most of them are very like oblivious towards it. Like it's no big, yeah, bro. Shit like that happens. Shit like that happens. It's normal. Maybe your neighbors are just bullshitting you, and you don't know the end. I'm like, bro, like everything checks out.
Yeah, totally. Also, that'd be an incredibly weird and fucked up thing to bullshit somebody about. Like, yeah.
They're sweethearts. They're the nicest people you'll meet. I'm grateful to them for having them as neighbors. They're very friendly people. For the very first time I've ever approached their doorstep, for the very first time I can say that I've ever had a conversation lasting more than 15 seconds with them, because there's, I would say, not a tremendous language barrier, but there is a language barrier, not enough to a point I would chop it up with them like every other week,
Right.
Hey, no. It's always been like very simple. Like, hey, how you doing? Everything's good? Yeah, great. For them to like kind of open up, get emotional, get choked up, and have this conversation with me goes to show, validates what I saw. It validates the story,
So that was T's story of being haunted while high.
That was a really good spooky story.
That was a spooky story, and it was nice that it was sort of a friendly ghost.
A friendly ghost, yeah, just a watcher.
Yeah, a friendly spirit or whatever you might want to call it, but no malintent.
No malintent. That's the preferred spirit.
Definitely the preferred spirit, unlike Jalco.
Very much unlike Jalco.
Yeah, that's interesting. In the two tales we had today, we had one spirit that was coming out here to abuse people.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we had a spirit that was just watching over his family.
That's right.
Right?
Keeping an eye on things.
Keeping an eye on things. So if there's a moral to the story here, it's that, you can be haunted while high. You know what I mean? Just because you're high doesn't mean you can't be haunted.
No, you can be haunted.
And I guess if haunting things are happening to you while you're high, don't doubt yourself just because you're high.
That's right.
You could legitimately be being haunted. It might not be in your head. You might not be hallucinating.
That's right. Don't tell yourself that it's, you're just dreaming it or whatever.
Right.
Because it could very well be real and you could very well be fucked. So
unless you're high on something that's not marijuana, then maybe you are hallucinating. I don't know.
Yeah, perhaps.
You know what I mean? Maybe if you're doing shrooms or LSD or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Again, you're talking to two people who don't do any drugs.
Yeah.
So we have no idea what we're talking about.
Us in our no experience.
Yeah.
Can't really
help you there.
No.
But again, we have to say a massive thank you to Elizabeth and T for sharing their haunted while high stories.
Absolutely. They were awesome stories.
And we would love for all of you to continue submitting your stories of when you were haunted, whether high or not.
Yes, because we'd love to share them.
Because for the rest of the year, it's not 420.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Any other stories that you have, we would love to continue sharing them. We'd love to have you guys call in.
That's right.
Yeah, and share your stories.
Hit us up at ectoplasmandevil@gmail.com. You can DM us.
Facts. You know how to get in touch with us.
You know how to get in touch
at this
with
point.
us.
If you've reached this point in the podcast, you must know how to get in touch with us.
You absolutely know how to get in touch with us, and I'm just trying to get you to do that.
I know that more of you have stories.
I do know that for a fact.
And we want to hear them.
We do.
That's the whole point of the podcast.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And before we sign out, we want to give a quick shout out to Ghost Bed.
That's right.
Our sponsors over at Ghost Bed.
I sleep like the dead on that thing.
If you use the discount code Buick, you'll get a discount I forgot what it was.
I think it's 20%.
I think it's 20%.
Don't hold me to it if I'm wrong.
Yeah, but either way, it's going to be cheaper than it would be normally.
Yeah, and it's a good ass mattress, y'all.
It's a good ass mattress.
If you want to sleep like the best sleep of your life, of your afterlife, maybe.
Oh my God.
It's the mattress for you.
Yeah, you know, and I'll tell you what, we're not just blowing smoke. That is the mattress that we sleep on.
That's right. And it's perpetually cool. It's got cooling technology. So you never have to like overheat in bed.
That's right. And they're just great people over there.
They are great people over there.
You know, everyone that we've interacted with at Ghost Bed has just been a really nice person.
Yes. Support nice people.
That's a fact. That's what we want to do more of in this world, is support nice people. And that about wraps it up for another episode of Ectoplasm and Evil. We'll see you next time.
Or will we?
Ah.